Hey guys, welcome back to the fifth installment of Path to VGC Greatness. We're going to be using Defiance again today. You can find the link to this team down in the description below. So, question of the day today is, which team composition do you think is most useful in Series 5, Sun, Trick Room, things like that? Personally, I think it's kind of like a mix. I've seen a couple of teams that have both Tailwind and Trick Room, something like Whimsicott and the Porygon 2 or something like that. Urshifu, definitely on those types of teams, has been, I think, a large asset to many people. So we get our first trainer today. It's Breno, who's number 1217. They have a team of Rillaboom, Cinderace, Dusclops, Incineroar, Tyranitar, and Milotic. So this is a fairly typical team composition with the Cinderace, Rillaboom, core. Also, Tyranitar and Dusclops is fairly common together. So I think we're just going to go Braviary, Bisharp. And then in the back, probably thinking Goodra. Put some pressure on the Rillaboom defensively, and then Incineroar can't offensively put too much damage down on it. Same thing with Milotic. Milotic really won't do that much damage if it's the Hypnosis variant. Thinking Rillaboom in the back also. Just put a little bit more pressure on this Tyranitar and the Milotic if they decide to go with the Trick Room option. Of course, it's not as good against Incineroar or the Cinderace, but I do think it has its use here, probably to pick it up with something like a Grassy Glide. So there's a few different things that they could go with. They could lead straight with the Trick Room like Tyranitar and Dusclops. They could lead Cinderace Rillaboom, which I think is a very solid lead. That's another reason I wanted to go with the Braviary Bisharp lead, because it's fairly good against that, more so than Bisharp and Rotom. So they are going to go with Tyranitar Dusclops. So they could just protect the Tyranitar here and go for the Trick Room. It's kind of what I'm assuming they're going to do. They could also Dynamax the Tyranitar, try to put in maybe a Max Rock Ball into Braviary or a Max Knuckle into Bisharp. So I don't know if I want to Dynamax or not. If I Dynamax, I'll get 20 more base power on Max Airstream rather than Brave Bird, which may actually come into consideration in taking this Dusclops out and not allowing Trick Room to get set up. So I think that's kind of what I have to do. Also, if I Dynamax, I should be able to survive something like the Max Rockfall from Tyranitar. We'll just have to see. So I'm going to get my Dynamax off. Let's see if they Dynamax their Tyranitar or if they just go straight for the Protect, maybe trying to hope that I target the Tyranitar and activate their weakness policy. Okay, so we don't see a Protect come out. We're just going to Max Airstream into Dusclops. Does a fair amount of damage. That should put it within range of Assurance being able to pick it up on Dusclops, but we'll see here. Yep, so that's just going to pick it up on Dusclops, and we'll see what Tyranitar goes for. It might be going for something like Superpower. Okay, so it just goes for Rock Slide, so that's pretty good. Doesn't even do 50% to Braviary, and it's just going to chip Bisharp down a little bit. Just kind of getting around that Focus Sash. Okay, so they're going to bring Cinderace in here. So the good thing is Bisharp does not outspeed Cinderace, currently at +1, but Braviary does. So if I can get another Max Airstream boost, then I can just 1-2 punch this Cinderace, because +2 Bisharp will outspeed the Cinderace here. So I'll just Max Airstream plus Assurance. He might Dynamax the Tyranitar. Just go ahead and try to take the Braviary out. or he could actually still potentially protect the Tyranitar since he didn't last turn. Just see what he goes for. So he is Dynamaxing. It's Pokeball, so I'm going to assume that this is the Cinderace. Okay, so it's regular Cinderace, which might reveal that they do not have a fire move. Okay, and then they do protect with Tyranitar, so I think that's the most ideal thing that could have happened for me, since I am doubling the Cinderace here. Yep, just going to see the Max Airstream go off. It did a little bit less damage than I thought it would, but it still did a fair amount of damage to the Cinderace. Okay, and then Assurance just picks it up, so that's good. So, depending on what they have in the back, we should be in a fairly good position. Yep. So they have Rillaboom. I think here, I could pretty easily just Max Airstream the Rillaboom, but since I have my own Rillaboom in the back, I think honestly I'll just deal with Tyranitar first. We'll just Max Knuckle into it, especially since he just protected last turn, and he doesn't have Dynamax. Okay. So they're just going to cancel the battle, which is probably the right move. I'm not sure how they would have gotten out of that one. So we take our first win of the day. And we'll see if we go up any rank here. Okay, number 6. It's not bad. So if anybody's wondering why we started at number 7 today, I guess somebody in the top 10 must have lost because we went from number 8 to number 7 between episodes without playing any games, so it's always nice. See who our next opponent is. Alright. Number 7. Okay. Oh, and they have a pretty interesting team. Okay. So they have a team of Dusclops, Urshifu, Hatterene, and DD, the Dragapult, and then Toxtricity. So I think I'm just pretty free to go Rotom Bisharp. Try to put some pressure on this Trick Room mode. It is kind of odd that his main Trick Room mode pretty much just relies around the Hatterene as an offensive option, unless this is a slow Toxtricity. So I'm going to go Bisharp Rotom. We'll bring Rillaboom in the back just to change the terrain. That's really it. And then Cinderace. I think this is pretty free, just looking at what his team composition is, to go with dual Sucker Punch, and we'll use Rillaboom essentially to just change the terrain so that he can't have the Psychic terrain to stop it. This could even be something like a Shadow Sneak on the Dusclops and Weakness Policy on Dragapult. Kind of assuming that might be the lead. Okay, so we see Toxtricity Dragapult. That's kind of an interesting lead there. Bisharp puts pressure here on the Dragapult with Sucker Punch, so more than likely he's either going to switch out or protect. So I'm just going to protect here, just kind of bait out his move. And then Rotom should be able to take pretty much whatever Toxtricity has, and we'll put a Hydro Pump into this Toxtricity. Just put some chip damage down. Okay, yep, so he's going to switch into the Indeedee here. So it's probably smart that I didn't attack with Bisharp. I'm going to see the Overdrive go off. So it does confirm that it is a little bit faster on Toxtricity. Again, going back to maybe just that Hatterene being... Okay, so we missed the Hydro Pump. Being that main Trick Room Pokemon. So that is a little annoying, because here, if I had gotten the Hydro Pump, it would have pretty much forced them into Follow Me. Yep, whereas here, now they can just click Helping Hand, and it might actually pick it up on the Rotom. Yeah, it picked it up on the Rotom. So that's a little unfortunate, especially because I didn't put any damage here on the Indeedee. I will put a little bit of damage on the Toxtricity, but that's not going to really help me a whole lot. We'll go ahead and bring Rillaboom in here just to switch the terrain up. More than likely, I'm going to need to deal with this Toxtricity sooner rather than later. I should, if I Dynamax here, be able to take an attack from the Toxtricity. It very well could be Specs. I'm not sure what the damage roll would have been on the Rotom with me having Assault Vest, but I would say that that's probably pretty close to it having Specs. So I think probably the best play here would just be to protect Bisharp and to get a max Airstream off with the Rillaboom. That way next turn I can potentially go for Drum Solo and then Assurance into, or Sucker Punch into the Toxtricity, either one. But we are gonna see the Gigantamax come out from the Toxtricity here, which is interesting. So if it is Specs, then they're not going to get that Specs boost. I'm assuming what he's going to do is probably Helping Hand Max Ooze into the Rillaboom here, just to try to make up for a little bit of that special attack drop if it was Specs. So just going to protect Bisharp. Hopefully it'll survive through the turn. Yep, so we see Follow Me come out from Indeedee. This +1 on the Rillaboom with speed will probably come in handy for whatever he has in the back, as long as I don't get paralyzed. Okay, so that's actually pretty good. I will take some chip damage from the poison, but not having the paralysis will probably pay off here. Even at +1, Rillaboom will underspeed the Cinderace that I have in the back. So I'm pretty free to just Pyro Ball into the Indeedee here, and then just Max Quake the Toxtricity. And of course, without his terrain set up, Sucker Punch will put some pressure on that Dragapult. So I think I'm pretty free just a Pyro Ball here, and then Max Quake. I will be faster than the Toxtricity with both Pokemon. So he's going to switch the Indeedee out, probably trying to reset that terrain. You'll see Dragapult come out, Max Guard coming out from the Toxtricity. So I'm just going to put a Pyro Ball into this Dragapult. It's a decent amount of damage. We do see Dragapult's faster than Cinderace. It's not that uncommon. And then Grassy Terrain, just showing that Rillaboom is, of course, faster than Toxtricity. So I could Sucker Punch here. However, I do think there's a chance that he could switch the Indeedee into the Toxtricity slot. So I'm just going to Iron Head. Iron Head should pick it up, since it's not resisted like Pyro Ball was. So we'll just go Iron Head into the Dragapult, probably. The only thing I'm worried about maybe him having something like Ally Switch, but I'm just going to guess that this is probably weakness policy based on his team composition. Okay, so he has Dragon Dance, which is interesting. I still think Ironhead should pick this up, but we'll see. We don't see any protects or any switches on the Toxtricity slot either, which is interesting. So he must just be relying on whatever he has in the back to pair with me and DD. He probably needs to follow me pressure. Yep, so Max Quake just going to pick it up on Toxtricity. So I'm going to heal up a little bit from terrain here. And then, of course, I'm going to take my poison damage. So let's see what he has in the back that he's going to pair this in DD with. Otherwise, I would have thought that maybe he would have brought it in last turn. So he's going to change the terrain. He's going to take away Grassy Glide. Okay, so we see Water or Shifu. So that is interesting. That might be a huge reason why he wanted to retain that follow me pressure, because I am at +1. Even though he's taken the terrain away, Grassy Glide should still be faster than this Urshifu as long as it's not Scarf. So I'm just going to Pyro Ball the NDD and then Glide the Urshifu here. So we see Protect come out from Urshifu. See what the NDD does. Okay, so he's just going to double Protect here. Just scouting out what I'm going to do, I guess. So we're going to switch to Fire type here. Pyro Ball into the NDD. Glide into the Urshifu here. So actually, I think Acrobatics does slightly more damage, even though I have same type attack bonus. Because it's essentially base 110 after you've lost your item. And Grassy Glide is 70 multiplied by the 1.5. So I think it's maybe 5 base power stronger than Glide. So we'll probably go with Acrobatics. I think I'm doing that math correctly. So he goes for the double Protect on one of his Pokemon. Honestly couldn't tell which one, but he didn't get it. So we're going to Pyro Ball into this NDD here and use Acrobatics into the Urshifu. Yep, so that does a little over half, so that's good. Okay, it must have been the NDD that he was going for the double Protect. Let's see who he targets here. Yep, so he just targets the Cinderace. It's not a big deal. Acrobatics should just pick it up here now on the Urshifu. And I'm just going to keep taking that poison damage. So it is a little unfortunate. Because what he could do is he could just try to stall out his own Psychic Terrain here. And each turn I'll keep taking poison damage. And then if he can stall out his own Psychic Terrain, I think it has 2 more turns. Yep, so he got the double Protect. But if he can stall it out and then maybe he crits something like the Aqua Jet, he could potentially pull this out. So let's see if he goes for the triple Protect. Okay, so he didn't even try it, but that's okay. Acrobatics, just going to come in, pick it up on his Urshifu. So that was actually a really good game there, I thought. We kind of had to play it back a little bit after a rough turn 1, but Rillaboom definitely coming in clutch there. So he was number 7, so let's see where we end up here. Okay, so we go up 1 rank. That is one of the bad things about being, in the top 10 is you really don't go up a whole lot of rank with each win that you get. But top 5 is pretty solid. Just one step closer here to number 1. Hopefully our next one will be another top player. That way we can move up the rank even more. But let's see who we get. Grab a little water. That's the next match here. Okay, so we got another one. It's Matt. He's ranked 1637. So he is a little bit lower. He has an interesting team. He has Incineroar, Rillaboom, Porygon Z, Rotom Heat, Clefairy, and the Urshifu. So I've seen a lot of these kind of Clefairy, Urshifu, Porygon Z cores. That's a big reason why I am running Iron Head still on Cinderace. Just kind of come in with Cinderace Bisharp. It's one of the few times that I will do it. And then I'll probably bring Goodra in the back for kind of putting pressure on the Incineroar, the Rotom, and the Rillaboom defensively. Only thing is, I kind of wanted to go Rillaboom, but I am a little concerned. Even though I am bringing Goodra, I am a little concerned about this Rotom Heat and the Incineroar kind of putting pressure on it. So while I typically wouldn't do this, especially with them having both Urshifu and Rillaboom, fix the camera here a little bit, I'm going to go with Rotom Wash in the back here. So they lead something like Clefairy, Porygon Z. I think we'll be in a good spot. Yep, so they just led Clefairy and Porygon Z. So I think this is pretty free. Just go max Steel Spike here into the Clefairy. And then we'll put Assurance into the Porygon Z. I fully expect that it's probably going to go for Max Strike. And then they probably do have the Urshifu in the back, which will put pressure on the Cinderace, especially if he puts the Max Strike into Cinderace. But at +2 with Assurance, especially if they have Life Orb, Assurance should pick it up here on the Porygon Z if they do go for Max Strike. So I'm assuming this is just going to be Follow Me here from the Clefairy. Otherwise, it would, I think most Cinderace Bisharp would go something like Max Airstream plus Assurance. So I think you kind of, okay. So they didn't even Dynamax, so that's interesting. So they do go for the Follow Me here. You see Steel Spike go off. Just going to take the Clefairy out. And then, I mean, it's not completely dumb, especially if they're trying to bait to see what I'm going to do. Okay, so Assurance actually goes off before Porygon attacks. Does a fair amount of damage. Oh, they actually go for Trick Room. I was going to say that it made some sense because they would essentially be able to get the same amount of power off with Hyper Beam, especially if they thought they were going to go down to something like an Assurance. And they wouldn't proc the Defiant on Bisharp, but this is kind of interesting. I didn't expect him to go Trick Room. It didn't really look like a Trick Room team to me, at least. So let's see who he brings in. Okay, so he brought in a Water Urshifu. So I'm not really sure what that's going to do in the Trick Room. It might be an Assault Vest variant. Run a little slower or something. So I'm just going to Sucker Punch the Porygon Z. I think that should pick it up. And that'll kind of save me if this Porygon Z is a little bit slower. I'm assuming he Dynamaxes the Urshifu here. No, we don't see a Dynamax, so I'm wondering who he has in the back who he's going to Dynamax then. See Close Combat go off into Bisharp. It's going to take me down to my Sash. So this is kind of interesting. Max Steel Spike. So it's going to do a little over half, even though he's at -1. I think that's still just a little outside of Sucker Punch range, even while he's at -1, just because fighting types do resist Dark. So he's going to bring in the Rillaboom here. I was going to say I think you Fake Out, but I think you almost have to Dynamax the Rillaboom. So it might just be worth it just to go. I'm at +2 defense, so he would have to go with something like Surging Strikes into Cinderace to do any kind of damage, just depending on what Rillaboom has. So I'm just gonna go. Sucker Punch and the G-Max Fireball into it, honestly, because I think I'm probably still slower than this Urshifu. I mean, it'll come down to. Yep, so he's just Dynamaxing. But it'll come down to speeds here if Sucker Punch goes off before something like the Aqua Jet. But I'm assuming that it will. And then we can put the G-Max Fireball. I think his win condition is probably to double target the Cinderace if he has something like Max Quake plus... Okay, so he just detects. That's interesting. I'm not really sure why you would detect there out of all the moves that you've got. So he goes for Max Knuckle. He's going to get the attack boost with both Rillaboom and the Urshifu. We'll see if the G-Max Fireball takes this Rillaboom out. With the chip damage from Sucker Punch, I think it'll be pretty close. Awesome. So we just took the Rillaboom out. So that pretty much just leaves us the +2 Cinderace with Goodra in the back, who should be slower than this Urshifu. And we have Rotom Wash in the back, which will also probably be close, if not underspeeding this Urshifu. So we're in Trick Room. Again, I'm not really sure why he went for the Trick Room. Maybe it is a little bit slower Rillaboom, and he just kind of expected me to go with something like the Max Airstream. It's the only thing I can guess, but was kind of an interesting choice, I would say. I'm going to Protect here, just to try to get around the Surging Strikes damage, because I am at +2, but if I change from Fire type to Normal type, I might actually be able to take it. There is like maybe, I think, 1 turn left of Trick Room, but Thunderbolt's just going to pick up anyway. I wasn't too concerned. So we've gone through these pretty quick. Yeah, let's look at the trainers. Okay, so he has a little bit faster Incineroar. It's interesting. Kind of slow on the Rillaboom, but it's not like min speed or anything by any means. So the Assault Vest is on it. We do see the life... Okay, so it is actually a fast Porygon Z. Which is kind of interesting why it has Trick Room. Pretty much max speed, Rotom Heat too. So max defense on the Clefairy. It's interesting it has Moonblast. And then looks like max attack Adamant on the Urshifu with Sash. So, okay, it's kind of an interesting team. Again, not quite sure why they went for the Trick Room, but kind of played in my hand a little bit there. So we're number 4. Edging closer here now to number 1. See who we get as our next opponent. Yeah, when you get into the top ranks like this, sometimes it takes a little while to find an opposing trainer. Luckily, we've had a little bit of luck here where we haven't run into where I'm not finding anybody. But it is kind of searching kind of deep. Sometimes when it does that, though, it's a little unfortunate. You don't always get paired up with like top 20 trainers. Yep, so Dan, 1462. I kid you not, I mean, I've been in like top 5 and they've paired me with like 8,000. Okay, so this guy has a really interesting team. 2 contrary users. So that essentially, anytime one of their stats would go down, it actually goes up. And same thing for if it goes up, it would go down. So I don't think that typically you would want to Dynamax something like that, but they have Arcanine, Lurantis, Gyarados, Malamar, Snorlax, and Darmanitan. So it's kind of like a bulky slash hyper offense. I'm not even sure what it is. I mean, so we're going to go with Rotom Bisharp. I think that's pretty solid. That'll pressure most of what he's got. I think the only thing I'd be a little concerned about might be the Lurantis and the Gyarados, especially if they come out together. So I'll bring Rillaboom. Rillaboom should put some pressure on using priority with Grassy Glide into something like the Gyarados or the Darmanitan. And I'll bring the Braviary just kind of to clean up in the back. Probably potentially against this Lurantis, and to put some pressure on the Arcanine if they bring that. So they're just going to lead Malamar, Darmanitan. So I'm kind of assuming he's probably just going to go for Trick Room. And he might just U-turn out here with the Darmanitan. So I'm in no immediate danger of losing either of these Pokemon. So I think I just double into the Malamar. I think Thunderbolt plus Assurance should pick it up. I mean, that's a fair amount of damage that I'm going to be putting to the Malamar. So let's see what he does here. Malamar is a pretty interesting Pokemon. It also gets, I think, one of the coolest moves with Topsy-Turvy. And so he just uses Superpower into Bisharp. But yeah, Topsy-Turvy, it kind of works sort of like Contrary, but in a move form. So any boosts would then become things that get lowered on the opposing Pokemon. So I think that's kind of cool. Yep, so Assurance is going to go off. Okay, so he holds on with just kind of like a little sliver of health, and he gets the Trick Room set up. So, but the good thing is he didn't go for U-turn or anything like that. So Darmanitan is kind of trapped in here with me. He might be able to take the Bisharp out, but at -1 attack, he's probably not doing all that much to Rotom. I'm assuming you just hard switch into the Lurantis, so I kind of want a Shadow Ball. But just in case you don't, I'm going to put the Thunderbolt into that slot. Okay, so they didn't switch. I just Sucker Punched the Malamar. I'm going to go ahead and take it out. And then Thunderbolt's going to go off into the Darmanitan. Okay, so that crit actually probably mattered. I know Darmanitan's not super bulky, but I gotta assume that Darmanitan probably would have been able to take at least a Thunderbolt. I mean, you never know, though. So they do have Gyarados and Lurantis, which I was a little bit concerned about with this Bisharp Rotom. Yep, so I have Rillaboom and Braviary in the back. Ideally, I think I would want to Dynamax the Rillaboom, but I'm kind of considering Dynamaxing the Rotom here, even if he goes for something like Leaf Blade plus Max Overgrowth, because he's Dynamaxing before me, which means it might be the Lurantis. It's actually the Gyarados. Okay, so it's a little bit slower Gyarados. It's interesting to note. I'm putting Sucker Punch into it, just try to do a little bit of chip damage, so maybe if it's something like the Assault Vest, hopefully I'll be able to pick it up. But I'm assuming Rotom should be able to take a Leaf Blade plus Max Overgrowth. It'll be pretty close. I do have Rillaboom and Braviary in the back, but we'll see. So Sucker Punch is going to go off into the Gyarados. That's interesting. Okay, so they actually have Grassy Glide, which is kind of a cool synergy between this Rillaboom, or excuse me, this Gyarados and the Lurantis. So I do survive this turn from the Max Overgrowth, but essentially they can set up this grassy terrain and then just glide with the Lurantis. So that's kind of neat. But I'm going to take their terrain away with Max Lightning. Yep, so it's just going to pick it up on Gyarados. Gyarados being 4 times weak to Electric. And then now I'm pretty free just to Sucker Punch and Max Phantasm. And I pretty much have this game on lock now because I have Rillaboom and Braviary in the back, both which can deal with this Lurantis pretty well. And even then, he has to choose if he's going to superpower into Bisharp or glide into the Rotom. So they decide to glide. They take out Dynamax Rotom here, but I'm still free to just keep Sucker Punching. Okay, interesting. So it's leftovers on the Lurantis, but I don't think that matters. I'll go ahead and set up the grassy terrain, even though it has Glide. I'll just go ahead and get the boost on my defense and then just Acrobatics here into the Lurantis. I think there's only one more turn of Trick Room left, so I can probably just protect the Bisharp and then click Acrobatics, and then if he's still alive next turn, then, yep, one turn of Trick Room. If he's still alive next turn, then I'll just Sucker Punch it. Not a problem. So we're just going to protect here with Bisharp. They do glide. Bisharp's going to be fine. And then you see Acrobatics come off here into Lurantis. Okay, so it's pretty good. Got the win. We were number 4. They were 1,000 and something, so I'm assuming we probably will get some rank, but it'll probably still just be like the last couple one. We only get like 1 rank or something. So let's see. Okay. So I was kind of assuming we'd get something, but let me just check real quick, make sure it didn't. There's actually no update. Okay, so it looks like there's probably no update. Thanks guys for tuning in. Tomorrow we'll keep on it, trying to go towards number 1. Tune in tomorrow, guys. Peace.